Islands of Adventure versus Universal Studios. What's the difference? Let's go inside the parks and figure it out. So this is a question I've been asked quite often over the years I've been vlogging, but most recently by Josh1372 on my video suggestion page on my website. He made the suggestion, why don't you tell us the difference between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure? So that's what we're going to do today. Starting with, I think we'll go inside of Studios first. But before we begin, we publish theme park videos on this channel all the time. So hit that subscribe button and that bell notification button so you'll know when another video is ready for you to view. So the first thing I need to explain is that these are two separate theme parks, Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. They are different. You can buy a ticket just for one, but most people buy the park-to-park ticket so they can experience both of the theme parks. But if you wanted to go just to one, you could. Well, first things first, let's start with the layouts. Both parks are pretty much circles around the lake. Studios has a couple more side alleys or side streets than Islands of Adventure does, and then the other thing is how they're organized. We'll start with how Studios is organized since we're here first, and this first section we're walking through is actually called Production Central. Production Central has three main attractions. You have the Minion Mayhem ride, you have the Shrek attraction, and then you have Rip Ride Rocket. This is referred to as Production Central primarily because this is where the sound stages are, and with these sound stages, this is where they can actually produce television shows and such. But primarily for the park guests, the sound stages is where they will house Halloween Horror Night haunted mazes. The haunted houses for Halloween Horror Nights would be in a lot of these sound stages. Islands of Adventure really does not have sound stages. In fact, when you're over at Islands of Adventure for Grinchmas and they produce that show, they actually walk you behind the scenes to a stage here on Universal Studios property. With the exception of Production Central, most of the park is divided into cities, and we'll explore those as we walk around the park, but Studios is more of a like cities type vibe than say Islands of Adventure, which of course is going to be made up of islands. I should note that this is not my typical versus video where I'm going to pick a winner at the end, but along the way I will tell you my favorites in comparison to the two parks. For example, I will tell you now, since I am in Studios, this is my favorite park for walking around. If I just want to walk around a theme park, I much prefer Studios to Islands of Adventure. The first city that we're going to visit here in Studios today will be Old New York. This is an area themed to New York around the turn of the century. I would say from like 1900 to 1920-ish, right around there. And that brings me to talk about the shows. They have two shows here in the New York area, the Blues Brothers and the Marilyn and the Diamond Bellas show. I love both of those shows, and I would have to say, as far as shows go, Studios is way, way better than Islands of Adventure in regards to shows. In fact, let's check out just a little bit of the Maryland show right now. Action! Very good. Sit right here and enjoy the view. I'll tell you what, in a few moments. Friends, you're welcome to come all the way through. Come in. I would love to tell you my favorite show here at Studios. I just can't decide between Maryland and the Blues Brothers. Between the two parks, Mummy is not my favorite ride, but it is my favorite ride here on the Studio side of things. And I should mention, there is one other show that happens here in the streets of New York, in addition to Maryland and the Blues Brothers, and that would be the Sing It show, which happens right here near the Blues Brothers stage. New York is also home to my favorite sit-down full-service restaurant, and that would be Finnegan's. But if we move a little down the street here, it's also the home of my favorite quick service spot, which would be Louie's Pizza. I also have a favorite spot for pizza at Islands of Adventure, but we'll get to that in a moment. Holy moly, I almost forgot about another show here in New York. Outside of Louie's restaurant, the Beat Builders will perform. So when it comes to shows, definitely Universal Studios outdoes Islands of Adventure. Before we get to our next city, which will be San Francisco, I just want to show you the lake or the lagoon that we're walking around. This is sort of what we take a lap around, this little water feature here. San Francisco is home to the Slow and the Curious. I mean the Fast and the Furious. My apologies. It's not one of my favorite rides, but if you're visiting, I suggest you do any ride that's here. Any and every ride. Don't just go on my recommendations. I'm here all the time. It's not going to get me into the park, but if you're not here all the time like me, you really should try to do everything, including Fast and the Furious. Here's the sign for the Fisherman's Wharf of San Francisco, which if we hang a right, we'll see the shark from the old Jaws attraction, one of the best photo ops they have here at Universal Studios, I might add. Another nice feature of San Francisco would be the fact that there is another sit-down full-service restaurant in Studios right here. That would be Lombard's Landing. Personally, I do prefer Finnegan's, but if you want some seafood, Lombard's would be the place you want to hit up. And again, it is a sit-down full-service restaurant. The next city, as we continue our loop around Universal Studios, is going to be London. And of course, inside of London will be Diagon Alley. Now, when it comes to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, there's one section at Studios, one section at Islands of Adventure. The section here in Studios would be Diagon Alley. And again, naming my favorites, I prefer Diagon Alley here in Studios to the Wizarding World section they have over there in Islands of Adventure, which would be Hogsmeade. Both areas are greatly themed. I just think that Diagon Alley is just over the top good. I think it's the best themed area of any theme park in the United States. I can't say the world because I have not visited some of the other theme parks, Universal Japan or some of the Disney parks that they have overseas. But as far as here in the States, I would have to say Diagon Alley is the best, and it is my favorite. So again, to prove that Studios is better than Islands of Adventure when it comes to shows, there are two shows here in Diagon Alley. There's the Tale of the Three Brothers, and also Celestine Warbeck and the Banshees perform here. Before we leave London, I do want to note another one of my favorites. One of my favorite snacks is here in London, this little green, it looks like one of the old taxi things they used to have in London, I think. But right here they have the jacket potato, one of my favorite snacks, and it's under $10. And now we come to a section of the park that really does not adhere to that city vibe. Right after we leave London, as we make our loop around the park, we come to the Fear Factor show, again another show here at Studios, and then we have the MIB attraction. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't MIB set in like Queens or New York, New Jersey area, right? So it's not really matching the rest of the theme park vibe, but we'll give it a pass. Now, I do enjoy the MIB attraction, and to help you enjoy it a little better, a little more, go check out this video right here. I did a tips and tricks for that ride. Now, you're not going to get a perfect score using these tips and tricks, but you will score a little bit better. The next city we're going to visit is going to be the fictional city of Springfield, home of the Simpsons. I have to admit, this area is awesomely themed. It's just like you're in Springfield. You've got the Quickie Mart, you got Moe's, you got Cletus's Chicken. And I would suggest, if you are here, you're a fan of The Simpsons, you got to have a Krusty Burger. How can you visit Springfield and not have a Krusty Burger? And if you're an adult, have a Duff Beer. But children, there are squishies for you. The Simpsons ride, I'm not a big fan of it. Most of the time it will make me nauseous, so just be aware, if you're really prone to motion sickness, you might want to skip The Simpsons, even if you love it. Just go to the Quickie Mart, grab a squishy instead, guys. I should say though, guys, this area is kind of divided into two. You have Springfield, and then you have Krusty Land. So Krusty Land is the theme park outside of Springfield. As we leave Springfield, we see the stadium for another show here at Studios. The Animal Actors on Location, a show that features a lot of animals, as the title would suggest. As I said in the beginning of this video, this park is mainly laid out in a circle, but it does have a few offshoots, and one of these offshoots leads to the Kids Zone. Let me tell you about this area. This area is home to the E.T. Adventure, fun for all ages. There's actually a Barney show here as well. I've never seen it. There's also Woody's Nut House coaster here, a fun, kid-friendly coaster. And there's a couple of water areas for the kids to play in. This area highlights two major differences between the two parks, studios and islands. And to be honest, Islands of Adventure, way better as far as a kid zone and water attractions. Let me explain. When it comes to Universal Studios, the kid zone is the area that's always brought up as far as rumors as being totally redone, except they would keep E.T. The rest of it they would scrap and put something else in here. Those rumors are persistent and always ongoing, and I have to say, when it comes to attractions for the kids, it's a little light. Like I said, you have the Barney show, you've got the water areas, and you have that little coaster. But compared to Islands of Adventure that has Seuss Landing, this is way lacking as far as attractions for kids. And the other thing is, you have the two little water areas. That's just to like splash around in. They're not really water attractions that adults can really appreciate. We'll go into a little more in depth on this subject when we get over to Islands of Adventure and we talk about Seuss Landing and we talk about those water attractions. Now, don't get me wrong, that kids zone is fun for kids. When my kids were little, we took them there all the time and they had a blast. I'm just saying, wait till we get to Seuss Landing, we check that out. Seuss Landing is gonna be way better than that. I forgot to mention earlier when I was showing you guys the water, this lake, this lagoon here, that they will have a fountain show here at night sometimes. But it's not like every night, you have to check the schedule. But it is a pretty entertaining show. Well, all right, we've almost completed our loop around the park. I'll point out the last couple of sections for you guys here in 1 second. One thing I want to point out, this little intersection right here, they will perform shows here. Sometimes like Dora the Explorer, or it could be a SpongeBob little street show, stuff like that. So once again, another show here at Studios. This one, I would say, is more geared for the kids when they do the shows on these corners. And I should note, this is located right at the end of Hollywood Boulevard, kind of near Mel's Diner. Okay, before we finish our loop around, our lap around Universal, I do want to note, here is a couple of these side streets I mentioned. So if you take these other little side streets here, it will take you behind the Transformers, kind of towards the old New York area, and then also you can continue on with these little side streets to get back to San Francisco. The last city we need to visit in our lap around Universal is going to be Hollywood. Hollywood Boulevard, the best place to meet the characters here at Universal Studios. And when it comes to meet and greets, the character meet and greets, I prefer Studios to Islands of Adventure. We'll discuss more about Islands of Adventure options over there, but over here we have some of my favorites: Marilyn, Betty Boop, Olive Oil, Scooby and the Gang, Homer, Bart, Beetlejuice, Dora the Explorer. This is the place for meet and greets if you're visiting Universal Studios. And like I said, I think I prefer this a little bit to what they offer over there at Islands of Adventure. Okay, so that completes our lap around Universal Studios. We still need to go to Islands of Adventure, though I don't think that will take as long. Let me see if I can sum up Studios real fast. It's my favorite for walking around. It's my favorite for shopping. It's my favorite for the character meet and greets. And it's kind of my favorite for food. It's really close. We'll talk about that a little more when we get over to Islands, but I think for food, this might be my favorite. So I think those are all my favorites for Studios, but it's not everything. Islands of Adventure is my favorite for a few things. Let's pop over there and check them out. You know what, before we get to Islands, I should mention my favorite bathroom. My favorite restroom is not in either park, but it is closest to Universal Studios. As we exit Universal by Rip Ride Rocket, over here by the Blue Man Group, this is the cleanest, quietest bathroom in either park. Well, actually it's not in the park, but it's next to Studios. You get what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you want the cleanest, quietest, least crowded bathroom, go outside the park here, Studios, go to the Blue Man Group, go to those bathrooms, clean and quiet. And now our adventure continues into Islands of Adventure. There's a couple things I want to note about Islands of Adventure. It often wins awards as the best theme park in the United States. Most recently, TripAdvisor named it the best theme park of 2019, but it often wins those types of awards. And then the other thing I should note is sometimes, you know what, most of the time it is more crowded than Studios. The crowd level's usually a bit high over here. Okay guys, we have made it into Islands of Adventure. Again, this is just a big circle, so we'll take a lap around this, and it's primarily based on islands. even Hogsmeade, because right, Hogsmeade's in Scotland, isn't it? So that's an island, right? Part of an island. So we'll take a lap around checking out the different islands of Adventure. And along the way, I will explain some of my favorites as opposed to Studios. For example, I said Studios was my favorite park to walk around. Islands of Adventure is my favorite park for the rides. Case in point, one of my all-time favorite rides, the Incredible Hulk roller coaster. The first island we are visiting, yes, Marvel Superhero Island, home of the Hulk, one of my all-time favorite rides. Also home of the Amazing Spider-Man ride, Dr. Doom Fearfall. I hit up these rides almost every time I'm here. I don't put it on camera all the time, but I try to always ride at least one of those three. The other thing I should note about Marvel Superhero Island, as far as meet and greets, Islands of Adventure, I think they're the best. If you love superheroes, you love comics, you may like this better than what they have in Hollywood Boulevard at Studios. Personally, I prefer Studios, but you may prefer Islands of Adventure Superhero Island. As we exit Marvel Superhero Island, we're going to head into Toon Lagoon. Now here's one of the big differences between the two parks, Studios and Islands. Toon Lagoon is the spot for water rides. You have Popeyes and Bluto's barges, and you have Ripsaw Falls. So as far as the water attraction goes, the water ride attractions way better over here at Islands of Adventure than what they have over there at Studios. The water rides here at Toon Lagoon are legit water rides. Ripsaw Falls and the barges here will get you 100% soaking wet. This isn't like Disney's Splash Mountain. You're getting wet on these rides, and they really don't offer that over at Studios. So for that reason, for water rides, Islands of Adventure is best. Just look at this Ripsaw Falls. 100% soaking wet. I know, I've been on it a lot. Usually without my wife Nikki, because she doesn't really care for the water rides that much. Situated in between Toon Lagoon and Jurassic Park is Kong Skull Island. It's just the one attraction, but it is one of the most popular attractions. You can expect long wait times if you're here during the peak season. As we continue to make our way around Islands of Adventure, the next major section we're going to visit will be the Jurassic Park section. Now the big thing with this one, there's one big attraction, there's a small one, but there's one big one would be the Jurassic Park River Adventure, which is again another water ride. It doesn't get you as wet as the other two they have in Toon Lagoon, but it will get you wet nonetheless. That's a fun ride, and they are building the Jurassic Park roller coaster. We're calling it the Velocicoaster. We don't think the Velocicoaster will be completed until sometime in 2021, but when it is completed, it's going to be awesome. I do have a POV of that ride. Go check it out. I've been told it's pretty accurate. There is one really cool meet and greet in Jurassic Park. It's awesome. In here you get the chance to meet Blue the Raptor. It's really cool, but I still say I prefer Hollywood Boulevard for meet and greets. Okay, we're about to head in one of the major areas of Islands of Adventure, and that's an understatement. We're heading into Hogsmeade. So when it comes to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, previously in this video, I did go on record stating that Diagon Alley was my favorite. I prefer Diagon Alley to Hogsmeade. However, Hogwarts Castle is awesome, and Hogsmeade is home to my favorite ride now, which is Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. You may be surprised that I prefer Diagon Alley to Hogsmeade based on the fact that Hagrid's is my new favorite ride, but I just seem to enjoy walking around Diagon Alley more than I enjoy walking through Hogsmeade. I think that's what it comes down to. And I should mention, when it comes to the interactive magic wand spots, I think Diagon Alley is better than Hogsmeade. Not quite at the end yet. We're almost there though. I want to remind you, click that subscribe button and that bell notification button so you'll know when another video is ready for you to view. So now we head into the Lost Continent, and I love the team members here, but this is my least favorite part of any Universal Studios or Islands of Adventure. This section here, my least favorite. They've gotten rid of the stunt show. I don't like the talking fountain. Poseidon's Fury, I hate that ride. I hate that attraction. It's so old, needs to be redone. But I do love Mythos. My favorite sit-down full-service restaurant in Islands of Adventure. Now, if you want a more casual thing, that would be Finnegan's, but a fancier one would be Mythos. It's a little more pricey though, but it has been awarded by Theme Park Insider as the world's best theme park restaurant. In fact, if I didn't think I would get in trouble, I would have dinner right now, right here. But since Nikki's not with me, I can't do that. I do want to note, since I do not like Poseidon's Fury, the attraction itself, the outside theming, the facade of the building is amazing. I give them props for that. I got to give credit where credit is due. One last island to check out at Islands of Adventure, that would be Seuss Landing. Now, if you recall, when we were over at Studios, we went into the kid zone. Seuss Landing is a way better kid area than what they have over there at Studios. We've got a few rides here. You have the Cat in the Hat ride, you have the carousel, you have One Fish, Two Fish, and the High in the Sky trolley. So as far as like kid activities, Islands of Adventure trumps Universal Studios. Now, if you recall, when I was over at Studios in the New York section, I remarked how one of my favorite spots to eat is Louie's Pizza. Over here in Seuss Landing, right there, the Circus McGurkus, it's the same pizza. It's the same as Louie's, guys. And I should note, there are some very good character meet and greets in Seuss Landing. All the Seuss characters are here. Cat in the Hat, the Grinch, all the big ones. So for kids meet and greets, this is a good spot for it. Again, I just say that I prefer the characters they have over there at Studios. Even if you combine the Seuss characters and the Marvel characters, I still prefer Hollywood Boulevard. Well, there you go, guys. Islands of Adventure versus Universal Studios. Hopefully you learn like some of the differences between the two parks, some of my favorites. Basically, it boils down to I like Studios for walking around and tours, and I like Islands for the rides. And with that being said,
Hi, I'm Amy from Washington. Don't miss the magic, don't miss the fun.
But wait, maybe I should give you my favorite, what do I like better between Universal Studios and Magic Kingdom? And the answer to that is... And now I would like to give a shout out and a thank you to the following viewers who have visited my coffee page and bought me a cup of coffee or a butterbeer recently. Thank you so much, Pat and Allie, the Madonna family, Mary Ann Carpenter, Renee Barris, Laura Ramiro, Antonio Glover, Julie Nagel, Nathan, and Kay. I believe it's Kay. Kay from Brazil. Thank you guys so much for donating to the coffee page.